Alright guys, I am just checking to see if we have sound. I did change one setting. And it looks like we are live with audio.
Alright, way to go. Mommy's busy.
Okay, Mary Jo said she has sound. Yay! Alright, sorry guys, I have no idea what was going on. But here we go. It's fine. We're just trying to get everybody outside of the craft room now.
Sorry, guys.
Okay. Sorry about that. Alright. Now, to restart or not to restart, let me just describe what it was that I've done. And then we'll just continue. So, I started with my Bristol Smooth paper, and I used my Distress Oxide inks with, let's see. Yeah, this one chat isn't showing me the chat as quickly as YouTube, so that's weird. It's always something technical, I swear. I apologize. Alright, so I started off with these 3 oxide colors. So I blended on Seedless Preserves, blended on my ripe persimmon, then blended my picked raspberry, and then went back and forth using these blending tools to get a seamless look between them. I have some ink smudges over here, which is where I left off. And I was just trying to get a baby wipe, because anytime I do ink blending, I seem to get ink somewhere. I was using a scrap piece to kind of hold it, especially when I turned it this way to ink blend, but ended up with ink anyway. So next thing I did is I sprayed some water from my Distress sprayer. So first I put it in my palm and splattered it like that, but then I got better results when I put it onto this stamping block and used a paintbrush like this. I think this is a fan brush. I always have good results with a fan brush, so I'm just going to go up a little higher and flick on a little bit more. And this is just going to give us a star effect in the sky. I'm just going to pick up the ink where the water reactivated it. And I'm going to check on you guys, make sure we're good. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and add some white stars to it. So for this, I'm using Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White. And I keep forgetting to put the top on, so this might be a little bit dried out. I really don't want to use my good brush for this, but anyways. So I just took a little bit and put it on the stamp block. Maybe a little bit more. Really don't need much. Then I'm going to add some water to make it more liquidy so that it will splatter. And what you can do too is take a scrap piece of paper and just splatter to make sure you're getting the results that you want. There's something on here. Oh, there's a piece of white. Alright, so now I'm just going to kind of flick off the edge of the stamp block and onto my panel. And you can do as many as you want. The closer you get, the bigger it's going to be, or the more liquidy is, the bigger the dots are going to be. I think I want some more big ones. I'm still getting little ones. It's not liquidy enough, but that's okay. So I'm just going to stick with that. Put this to the side. And put this to the side. Close this up. And use my baby wipe. Just to clean this area. As long as you do it while it's wet, a baby wipe would suffice for cleaning. If it's dried on, you might have to use something else. Alright, so I'm going to put that to the side. I'm just going to look back at my sample card again to see where we can go next with this. So for the background, I used a couple different dyes to create a mountain, create some grass, create a road, and then I have my car with Gus and Gertie. So let's go ahead and do the stamping first. So I like using my Misty just because if I don't get stamped right the first time, then I can always re-stamp it in the exact same position. And this is the stamp set I'm using, which is Gus and Gertie Ride On from Tailored Expressions. And I'm just going to be using the car image and the die for it. Car image and die. And since this is red rubber, I'm going to have to take out this pad from my Misty. I'm just going to put the car stamp in, and then I'm going to grab some Nina Solar White cardstock because it works great for Copic coloring. And the ink I'm going to use is this Lawn Fawn Jet Black, which is great with alcohol markers. It says that in the corner here. Sometimes when you view it on websites, it doesn't have this on here, so you have to look at the descriptions. There's two different inks. I actually have both of them. So there is Black Licorice, which is good for sentiments, and Jet Black, which is good for alcohol markers. So I just put an extra label on here to remind me, because otherwise I will mix them up and forget. So let's just go ahead, stamp this up. You don't have to do too much. Just do a little bit and get started. See how it looks and add more as needed. And it looks like there might be a little hair somewhere, or it's just on here. It's on here. So let me know what you're working on tonight, or if you're just sitting back and watching, or if you actually have these stamps to work with. I think I'm going to go in one more time. And I'm going to use Copic markers to color this. I did not list them in my blog posts just because I kind of just do what feels right when while I'm coloring. I don't really keep track of the markers. So I'm just going to put that to the side and pick some markers. So what I have is this Copic swatch book. I've had this for a long time. I know I got it at some type of expo at one of the booths. But I've swatched like all of my markers out, and I use this to compare like my cardstocks to see, you know, what color matches up. So for this, it looks like I did some type of red. So I'm just going to go to my red colors, and I kind of want a dark red, and then maybe one a little bit lighter. So I'm going to do R29, 27 for the car. Then we have the bird, and you can do two different colors, but it's pretty small, so I think I can get away with just one color. I think I used Y13 last time because it matched with the dashes on the road. But, you know, I'm gonna stick with it. Let's go with Y13. And then the wheels are gray. So I believe, usually when it's like an object like wheels that aren't alive, I will use a cool or neutral color. And I think for this I used neutral. So my grays, yeah, I definitely use those because I have some to the side that were not working very well when I last did this card, so I need to replace them or get refills. So I have N2, N4, N6, maybe. But we'll see. Because this N2 is kind of dried out, I might end up going a little bit darker with the wheels this time. Alright, so I'm going to zoom you guys in a little bit so you can see better. Could do it like that. Yeah, that should be fine. Alright, so I'm going to start with my darker color, which is the R29. And on my Copics, I have replaced the nib so that I have a fine tip instead of a broad tip, as well as the brush marker. I find that when I'm getting into small spaces, the fine tip works really well. For this, I think I'm okay with just using the, I don't even know what I just called it. This tip, the brush tip, there we go. And I don't think I did much shading, but what I can do is outline it and then bring the color in. So I'm just going to go around the edge. Now if you were going to create a shadow where one side is darker than the other, then you could just do one side with the dark color. But I'm going to make it so the sun is kind of like above them, where maybe the bottom part of the car is dark and the top is a little bit lighter. And again, this is a night scene, so it's the sun setting essentially. So I try to keep those things in mind when I decide what I want to do with shading. And I don't really keep it too neat. I just make sure to try and not go outside the line. But if I do, I can fix that. Alright, then once I've outlined, I go in a little bit further. I think this whole side is just going to be red. Same with, actually up there I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go up from the bottom. And then out from the sides. Then we'll go ahead and go a little bit lighter. To bring the next color in. And I recently did a Copic class, so I learned some tips and techniques that have helped me. So when I do this next color, you're supposed to blend it with the previous color until you no longer see a line between the two colors. If that makes sense. And I am in no way a Copic or alcohol marker expert, and I don't claim to be. But I'm just sharing the tips that I've learned along the way. So again, just making sure that that line between the two reds goes away. And maybe bring it in a little bit more. And now the bottom. I'm not sure if you can see, I think you can see a little bit on screen how it's a difference in color. I like to go in circles to help with the blending. See, I made a mistake there, so I'm going to show you how I fix that after I'm done coloring. Alright, and I'm going to go back with my dark. To add a little bit more of that darkness again. It kind of disappeared a little bit. Bring it up from the bottom. From the side. Go on top of the wheels. making a lot of mistakes here. I think I'm just rushing a little bit because we lost some time at the beginning. Sometimes what I do is I go back over the dark with the light just to get a good blend where you won't see a line between the two colors. I mean, you probably won't, like at this point, you won't really see much of a blend, but that's okay. Next color, I'm going to go ahead and color in the bird. I'm not going to do any shading with him because he's so small. And the light. I have a teeny bit of red in the light. I'm kind of just blending that out with the yellow, using the yellow marker. And then it doesn't really look so red. And then we're going to move on to the wheels. So let's test how this N2 is. I think it was, is it okay now? Maybe it's okay, I don't know. But I believe I started with, nope, we're going to start with our medium, or in this case the dark. So the rim part, we're going to do dark, the outside, and then I'll use that light color in a second to fill in the rest of the rim. So I'm blending so I don't see the line anymore of the dark color. Do that on the second wheel. Alright, then I'm going to do the tires. So I'm going to start with my N6, which is my darker color. I'm going to outline the wheel. I'm trying to be careful with this, not go outside the line and into my red. Alright, then I'm going to use my N4 to blend out the N6. You can do circular motions, you can do flicks. But what happens is that you're blending out that dark color so that they're like the same color where they meet, but then as the ink dries, you'll see a difference between the dark and that lighter shade. And just do the other wheel. So let me know in the comments if you like to color your stamped images, and if so, what is your favorite medium for coloring them? And for me, it's definitely Copic markers, and then sometimes I'll do ink blending for my images, but I use that more so for stencils. Alright, I think I wanted to add a few more details, so I'm going to put this dark gray with the steering wheel. And then we're going to fix all these spots. So there are a couple of ways to do this. You can use the colorless blender to try to get rid of some areas where the ink is. You're basically, it's not an eraser, you're kind of just pushing it away from the area that it's in. I don't find that that works well with red. I feel like it actually makes it more noticeable. So instead I have these jelly roll pens in white, and I'm just going to go over the spots that may have some red. I have some black spots on Gus too that I can get rid of. And you could wait till you die cut to see like if these spots are actually noticeable. But I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so I just do it now before I die cut. It's almost like applying paint, white paint to the areas. Alright, so then we have some of these stray black lines from stamping. One more spot or two. Now I'm just being nitpicky because some of these things are really not noticeable. Down here, looks like I need another layer. Alright, so I've got that. The other thing that I do to add details with my stamped images is to add some shine marks. So I'm just going to look at my original. To try to remember. And I don't think there's a real science to it. I tend to put them on the darker spots of the images. I mean, there probably is a science to it, but I don't know it. So I just do whatever feels right. Another thing you can do, which I've also do, is I look at samples of the card or stamp set used on the manufacturer's website, and usually you can find a sample where a design team member has done the shine marks, and it can give you an idea of where to put yours. See, I had some above the handles. I think I'll still do that because it kind of helps them pop a little bit. Did some on the light, even though you can't see them that well. The front of the car. And with this, again, you can do as little or as much as you want. There is a point, I think, of going a little overboard, but I just think it's nice and it adds to the realism of the image. Okay, this I'm going to try not to mess up. Not always great at drawing straight lines. Do one here. And there's also different thicknesses of these pens. There's an 8, a 5, and a 10, I think those are the 3. And I only figured that out recently. I don't know why it took me so long to figure that out. But I'm using the 10. But if you use an 8 or 5, they'll be thinner lines. So it's up to you. And then I also added some lines to the windows. You can't see them except for really in person or on the close-up shots of this card. And I think that's going to be it for my image. Alright, so now we can move on to some other parts. We'll use our dies to create a background. Okay, I see Mary Jo says she's gotten the stamps. Awesome. And just sit back and watching, and that's fine. Whenever I watch like instruction videos, I usually sit back, watch, see what they do, and then you know, change it up however I might want to when I make the actual card. Alright, so I'm going to let this dry a little bit before I die cut it, so I'm going to put it with our background over here. And I'm trying to figure out if I am frozen. Let's see. Sorry, I'm changing all my views so I can figure out what's going on. Sometimes I just have to change something on the camera. Well, my iPhone, really. Okay. I don't know how long I was frozen for, so I apologize. Like I said, I feel like it's always something when I'm doing a recording that's not right. But here's our finished image, in case you didn't see that. Alright, so for the rest of my background, I am going to create a mountain and some grass, like a grassy hill, and a road for our car to go on. So let's start with the road. Put these to the side and bring up my screen again. And we're zoomed out so you can see perfect. Alright, and for my dyes, I used a bunch of Fawn dyes for this part. So I'm going to use, this is going to be for our mountain, which is Mama Elephant Snowcap Mountain. So put that to the side. Fawn Simple Road Border is what I'm going to use for our road. So let's just start with that. So it comes with two pieces. So we've got a road, and this will give us, this is the road. You can use this as is, or you can use this underneath this piece, and that'll give you the yellow dashes. So what I'm going to do first is die cut my yellow dashes. From some, what color is this? This is potato chip cardstock from Tailored Expressions. And then I'm also going to cut the actual road from some black cardstock. And I'm going to end up cutting this down so it goes through my die cutting machine better. And I'm not going to pull my die cutting machine in, it's over here on the side, but I'm using a big shot, and then here are my plates. So I'm just going to put one here, one here, put my top plate in, and then put them on my base plate and run them through at the same time. And then these are the pieces that I get. So I have this road, which I'm not sure why it didn't separate right here. It's weird. I'm just gonna cut it. These are my scraps. And then we have the actual road with the dashes. So I'm gonna pop all these dashes out that have been die cut. I think if I'd put my metal shim under my dies, these would have came out better, and because there's like a few that are stuck, I can feel it. And the yellow one would have die cut completely without me having to cut it. Stuck. Okay. So let's move that out of the way. Put our dies and scraps to the side. So now, when I put this on top of my road, or the yellow, I've got the yellow dashes underneath the road. So for this, I'm just going to go ahead and glue these together. I'm using some Barely Art liquid glue. Nothing fancy here, just putting a glue on both top and bottom. And once I put this on here, you're not going to see the stitched line that the die created for the yellow, but we don't need it. I mean, it could be nice to have that, but they would have had to put it on this side, or I could run this through again by putting the stitch die right over top and sending it back through my die cutting machine, but I'm not going to do that. Alright, so now we've got our road. Next, we're going to do our mountains. So when I did these the first time, I just did the mountain die from this set. I did not do the snow caps. Alright, thanks for letting me know that wasn't frozen. That's good. I think maybe it's just my computer. I don't know. And for my my mountains, if I look back at my original, they're behind the grass. So really, I could cut this down to what I think I would want this to be, which, since it almost goes to the top of the card, which the panel was 4 by 5.25. I could make this 4 by 5.25. I think I will. Because this will give me a good base to work with. So I'm just going to put this at the very top and figure out how I want it to lay. And I'm going to use my highlighter tape to tape this down. I usually do my tape on the outside edge of the die, not where the piece is, because if the tape rips, like it's too sticky from the pressure of the die cut machine, it could rip. But if it rips on the outside where it's scrap, it won't matter. Alright, so here I've got my mountains. Now if I wanted to do the snow caps, I'll just show you kind of what they would look like. Is it this way? Yeah. No. Maybe it's this way. And it's actually kind of crooked. Once you put the snow caps on, I think. Slightly. Not completely. I could add the snow caps for more detail, but that's not what I'm going to do. But instead, what I am going to do is I'm going to take some distress ink and a brown color. I think I used, let me check. I think I used maybe Gathered Twigs, Vintage Photo, or Walnut Stain, maybe even Ground Espresso. So with all my inks, I have them in an inventory binder like so, and I have them swatched out. This was just me testing whether the inks needed to be refilled or not. So I have a swatch, essentially, so I can bring these out and look at my mountain and see maybe what I want to do to just add a little bit of detail and darkness to them. I think I'm going to use gathered twigs. And for my mini distress inks, I keep the foams on the bottom, and then I can just switch out the foam on my blending tools. So this is actually a new foam, so it doesn't have any ink on it yet. I'm just going to ink it up, and then I'm going to start off the paper and then go around the edges. And all this is going to do is just add some interest, some depth, some dimension. Just so they're not flat on my card. And I'm just making it kind of darker towards the edges. And then going in a little bit further once most of the ink has come off on the edges. Alright, so it's just a little bit of detail, nothing too much. Put this to the side, and again we're going to clean our surface. Just using a baby wipe for now. Usually I have a spray, but I don't want to spray on the rest of my pieces I'm working with here. Okay. Alright, so now I've got my mountain, I've got my road. We need some grass. So I've got a piece of pea pod cardstock from Tailored Expressions. And I want my grass to curve around the road at the same angle. So I'm just going to take this Lawn Fawn Simple Grassy Hillsides and see which one has the same curvature. So I believe it's this one. But these other ones, you can see how they don't line up with the road. They just give you a steeper hill. And this is actually going to be part of the front of the card. The mountain really didn't matter the length because it's going to be behind the grass. But for the grass, I'm going to want to make sure to get as much as I want to show. So I can do some lining up here. I have my road. For example. And then we're going to need room to put our sliding mechanism, which is the interactive part of this card. Same thing, they have a few different dies. They have slide on over semicircles and slide on over. You could use a semicircle one that will line up with the grass and the road, and the car would just go along the road. But because of the sentiment I have on the inside about the driving, I'm making it a little bit more wonky. So I chose to use this one for my card. But you know what I'm going to do? Because it turns around in circles, it really doesn't matter if I use this wonky die. So I'm going to go ahead and use, I may have put this in the wrong one. It's either, I think this is from Slide On Over. I'm going to use this one this time. So I've got my grass, and actually my grass is going to go above my sliding mechanism. So we're just going to make sure we have room for that and room for a little bit of grass on top of that. So that's about where I want my grass to be. So I'm going to leave that there and get some tape and try to make sure this is centered. Can use the grid line on my mat here. I'm just going to pull it down a little bit. See better. Alright, so I'm going to pull that back up. And I don't know if this length will go through my die cutting machine, so I'm going to just cut off the excess cardstock that I won't be using. And then I'm going to just send this through my Big Shot. Oops. Kind of needs a top. Alright, so there's my grass. Alright, so we can start lining things up to get an idea of how this is going to go. So I have this panel here, which I can cut down. Like if I want more of this orangish color, I can do that. But we already know that this is about the length or about the height that we want for the mountain. So we would probably have to cut from the top instead. And I'm just going to look at my sample again. So it looks like this mountain is flat on the background. So I'm going to go ahead and, actually no. I think it is popped up. Yeah, it looks popped up. Alright. So what we'll do is start with our grass. Yeah, this took me a little bit of trial and error, so bear with me as I try to get this positioned how I want it. I think what I want to do this time, because I want a little bit more of this orange, it's too bad I can't have all of this. It's so pretty. I love the combination of the colors here. So I'm going to just put this kind of where I want the orange to show. And we already know that the mountain is as wide as we need it, which is actually, yeah, it's 5 1/4. And then we need it to go to 4 inches. So if I line up 1, 2, 3, 4, it'll stop about here. And I won't really get much of the purple, so I'm going to just go up just a tiny bit more so that we actually get some of that purple. Alright, so I'm going to cut this side off, and then I'm going to cut the top. I'm going to tape this on both sides, not on this part because I don't want it to pull up the ink. Scared to do this, you guys. Maybe I'll do 4 1/4. And then just double check my grass and everything. So this will be about here. Then we've got our slider. Then we've got our road. Yeah. It's going to just take some playing around to get exactly how I want it. But I think this is good. So I'm going to go ahead and peel this off. And what I'll end up doing is cutting some of the mountain. Not the mountain, the bottom of the mountain. So this goes up about this far. So I can retape this, or I could have kept the tape on. I'm going to go ahead and line this up, put it back in my trimmer, and go ahead and cut that extra 1/4 of an inch off so that it's 4 inches tall, the whole panel. Okay. So, the only thing about this is that it's only 4 inches once I put the mountain down a little bit past where this is. So, I've got to keep that in mind. But since this is going to be a separate piece, I am just I think I might want to temporarily adhere it to here, just so I know how much room to give myself for everything else. So I'm finding my 4 inches. I may have written it out really well on my blog post of how to do this. So you could just follow those instructions as well, but whatever works for you. So that's kind of about where I want my grass. The rest of it is going to be excess. So I'm going to tape my grass to my mountain. I'm going to take this whole thing. I'm really making this more difficult on myself. And I'm going to go ahead and trim this panel again down to 4 inches. I'm also going to get rid of the grass on the side. So 5 1/4. Because I cut it, my tape got cut. So I am just improvising at this point. Okay. Put the whole panel in, line it up to 4 inches. There we go. Now I've got my scene. Sorry if that was confusing. But you can see I haven't adhered anything down. So it's really just trial and error sometimes to get it just right. Now this tape doesn't want to come off. Alright. So now at this point, I could adhere my grass because this is all going to be one panel. And another thing I can do, and I might have done it, is add some distressed ink to the grass as well. So I think for this, I'm going to just use some mowed lawn. So I'm going to take that blending brush I had somewhere here. Put this back in the gathered twigs. Put this new one on. Again, this is a new foam for this ink too. And we're going to get some ink on it. Okay. Now I have to be careful because if I'm not, these grass points might fold down. So what I could do is just kind of pull up instead of going down towards the bottom of the grass. Pull up from the bottom of the grass. Depending on how much ink you have on your foam, you may or may not get a harsh edge. But what I'm going to do is after I've done that, I'm going to go on it. Look, there's a harsh edge. See, there it goes. I'm going to try to just blend only on the grass part. Just the green part that's not grass. See, now I've got like a dark edge here. So, just make it a little bit darker. Maybe even do the sides too. That's what card making is, right? And it's a lot of improv and going with the flow, make a mistake, and do what you can to fix it because you don't want to restart the whole project. At least I usually don't. I'm going to do some from the bottom too. And do it all over. Just lightly on that part. But now you can see kind of like a shadow around the edge. Go ahead and put that to the side. Use my baby wipe to clean up. So now this can be adhered to my mountain. And I'm just going to use tape runner adhesive for that. So with the curvature. And then I know I got some of this tape up where the grass is, so I'm just going to bend it, the tape down. It's weird. I know it would say bend, but that's what this tape runner does. It's like it puts little lines down on your project that can kind of bend. I don't know. Looks like I did it here too. It's like they're not, it doesn't come out as all one piece of adhesive. So I'm just going to line this up with the bottom of my mountain. Stick that down. Then we need our a slide on over die and our road. So we just have to decide where we're going to put the road. We're not going to use this whole thing, we're going to have to cut it some. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to just line it up with the corners. And if I do that, I die cut this from up here, I think we'll be good. So this I'm also going to use tape runner adhesive, which this adhesive gives me some wiggle room, so if I don't get it in the right spot the first time, I can maneuver it around a little bit. Okay, and this I can just use my scissors to take off the excess road. We can go ahead and put this on top of here so you can kind of get what we're doing. And I'm going to take my slide on over and I'm going to center it on the grass. So for this part, we're going to be die cutting through a few layers of cardstock because I've already adhered them together. I find it easier to do this, but you could certainly do one piece at a time if you want, but this will make sure everything lines up together. I just might have to run it through my die cut machine a few times for it to go through. So we'll just put that in like normal. And go through a few times. Depending on how much it cuts through, you might just have to remove the slide on over piece from one side, pop out whatever did die cut through. So in this case, I think just the green. Nope. Almost. See if I can peel that green off the brown. And don't throw this away either. But you do have a chance to re-die cut it too. So I'm just going to put this green piece to the side because I am going to use this. And I'm just going to put my die right back over in the same spot. And then give it a chance to go back through the tan paper. And just be careful when removing so you don't rip the paper with the tape. Alright, so now we've got our little mechanism. Now you see how you look through and you can see this background. That's where we're going to use this piece, is we're going to place it back in so it's kind of seamless. So before we do that, we are going to make our slider mechanism. So we have our Gus and Gertie. Then we're going to die cut the car out. And there's our car. And we want the car to kind of be like this. I'm just kind of mapping it out. It's going to be driving on the right side of the road. I guess depending on where in the world you are, you could make it go up so it's the left side. If you're like in Europe or Germany. And for our sliding mechanism, I have a few different things. I have a spinner set from Tailored Expressions. I got this in like an advent calendar, so I don't know if it comes with this little circle die, but it does come with this one, or it did come with this one. But I'm just going to get one of these on the right track discs and take that out. And then I have these My Favorite Things replenishments, and I don't know the difference in name, but basically one is an oval and one is a circle. And what I'm gonna do is use a circle. The reason I'm gonna do that, if I use the oval, sorry, I'm about to call it an oblong, it will not be able to turn. It will turn some, but not a lot. But the circle will turn all the way around. So I want my little car to turn 360. Now, if you want it to go straight, certainly do the oval one. So I'm going to make this a little wonky. So I'm going to do the circle one, and I'm going to do 2 of them. Put this oval one back. You can also use circle tape adhesive, foam tape, things like that. For this piece, you could use a penny instead. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for my super glue, because I found that to be the best thing to adhere all this plastic to each other without it coming apart. And we want this on our car, but before we put it on the car, we're going to glue our first circle to the center of the disc. And I'm just going to push that into place. Give that a second to dry. Another thing is it dries quick. I'm going to put another dot. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit for you. So here, so I already put one, put some super glue, and then I'm going to stack the other one right on top of that. And then once that dries, we're going to put it on the back of the car. So meanwhile, let's zoom back out. We're going to put some foam adhesive on this piece. Now, I am actually debating whether I need 2 of these, or if I can do just one. Maybe I'll just do one. Let's try with one. I'll put this one over here to use if I need it. The more important thing is to put enough foam adhesive on this piece so that it pops off the background here with enough space for the disc to move around. So I'm just going to go ahead and start putting foam adhesive. Or I should space this out, I guess. You can use any foam adhesive you have, but keep in mind that we're going to do some layers. Also keep in mind that when your disc is on here, you do not want the adhesive, or the foam adhesive to touch the disc, or else it's going to get stuck. Same thing when it gets all the way to the end here. Make sure it's not going to touch. And same on this side. Just trying to stick to my fingers. It's the only thing about super glue. It sticks to everything. Okay. I think that's all I'm going to put down. So now I'm going to remove all these. There we go, let's zoom out a little bit more. Remove all the backings so that I can add another layer. Yep. That's what we're doing. But I gotta remind myself we're gonna do something before we actually put the car on the sliding mechanism. I'm trying to see if I can get this done by 10. I don't like to be live for more than 1 to 2 hours. How am I not keeping track with the ones I removed? Okay, I removed them all, right? Alright, so now I'm going to put another layer. So, and this is going to be one of those cards that you might want to put in like soft foam packaging to send, not in a regular envelope. And it's going to cost more to send, so maybe it's a better in-person card to give. And I think I ran out of, let me just grab a refill of these foam squares. I always stock up on these. If you get these from Amazon, which I think I have in the links, you can get them in bulk for a pretty good deal, and I find it better to do that, so I'll never have enough of these. Alright, so and I believe we're going to be good with just 2 layers of foam. Anything more I think would just be too thick. And I think that's why we're going to use just one of those little circles on our sliding mechanism. Alright. Now I'm going to go ahead and pull my card base, which is not this one. I want to do a side folding card base. So I have this Nina Solar White cut down to, I believe this is 8.5 by 5.5. All I have to do is score it. At 4.25. Alright, so I have my card base here, and so it is a side folding, that's what it's called, but I'm going to turn it this way so that it's a top folding landscape card. So I'm going to go ahead and take our background and adhere that to our card base. Just using some tape runner adhesive. And I'm going to put this almost a quarter of an inch from the top. Just make sure it's equal on all sides. And that's straight. Then I'm going to line up this bottom piece to make sure it's the same on all sides as well. And then we'll take this green piece and I'm going to insert it back inside onto the card. And I'm just going to use some liquid adhesive to give me time to move it around if it's not exactly in the right spot. So I am just going to pull this a little closer to me so I can see it. I'll try to bring it back into view so you can see what I'm doing. And I will admit for me, this is the hard part. So I think it's easiest just to put one side down first. And then follow through with the rest. And then make sure it's on there good, and then line this up again to make sure it's straight. I think I want to bring this down. Probably shouldn't have pressed it, but I'm going to bring it down just a little bit more. More than that. Once I get it perfect, I can go ahead and add a little bit more adhesive to it. Okay. So just go back under here, add more glue. I could push. This side's good. All right. Now before we adhere this part, we have to finish our mechanism, our sliding mechanism. So at this point, we have our car. We want to line this up on our road where we want it to be. It's probably easiest to put it in the center so that it's straight. Then holding that, we're going to turn it over and adhere this little piece to the back. And this is what's going to slide back and forth. So I'm going to just add a little bit of super glue. And make sure to not get it anywhere else. Try it one more time. I didn't wait for it to dry. If it helps, you can just lay it down on your work surface and do this. I know I'm a little bit further down than I want to be, but that's okay. So I'm gonna just push it. Got some glue over here that I don't want. What I also like to do is use some sort of powder tool if I do get some glue where I don't want it, so that the adhesive is not sticky, because it will not work if it is sticky. Push that down. Make sure my rest of my panel is moving, so you can see here it's freely moving. Alright. Then we can turn it over and go ahead and see if it slides back and forth, and if it's going to turn around. Yep. But I feel some stickiness behind here, so I'm not sure where that is. I think if it's dry, it won't affect it. But I'm just going to take this powder tool and just run it inside our slider, just to be extra cautious. Alright, so I think that moves pretty well. So now, I think I got glue on here too. That's okay. Alright, so now I'm just going to also put it on here to make sure when it's on here, it'll move back and forth. If there wasn't enough depth with the foam tape, when you put it on here, it will not move. So I encourage you to just double check everything before you make it permanent. So we can remove all of these. And there's really just a few more steps. I don't think I'm going to make it to only 10 o'clock, sorry. It's only because we had a little mishap at the beginning where sound wasn't working. I think because I've recently changed up my audio equipment, it wasn't quite registered to the recording program that I'm using, so it wasn't picking up sound, even though my computer said it was picking up sound. Alright, so I've removed all of those. I'm going to go ahead and place this down. I'm going to put this in my view so I can make sure it matches with the green piece on the inside, at least for the most part. Slide it down, make sure it's good on the other end, and then press. Alright, so if we did this right, which we did, it's going to turn around, do flippies and all that. Now this time, like I said, I didn't do the wiggly or squiggle line because I didn't really need to. It still does its flips, so that's good. Alright, the only things left are the sentiments, and I'm going to just see who's with me. Okay, we still have quite a few people here, so I'm going to go ahead and quickly run through the sentiments which make this card and make it make sense. So I have this stamp set, Another Year Older from Taylor Expressions, and it has this sentiment, may you live to be so old your driving scares people. Which with all the flippies, it's like, obviously that's going to scare people. And I don't know what this mark is here. Oh well. I have some shine marks to do on my mountains too, so maybe I'll cover that up. This is another one I thought would go well with this stamp. 1 minute you're young and fun, the next you're turning down the stereo in your car so you can see better. I know that I do that. So I thought that was pretty funny. So that could go with the car thing as well. Maybe not the flippies, but definitely the car image. Alright, so that one is this one. And because there's not much space on the front, I did choose to do it on the inside. You could have done this on your card base before adhering everything to it, but it is possible to do it afterwards. So I'm just going to clean this stamp up real quick. And I apologize for the mess on my desk. It's always towards the end that everything is just kind of flung everywhere. And that's when I have to come back to my desk the next day to clean, because I just don't have it in me to do it afterwards. Alright, so I've cleaned off my Misty. And I'm going to put my card in like so. And what I'm going to do is actually pull it down so it goes to these pieces here. And then put our magnets down. And I also have these grid pieces from Taylor Expressions that help line up your sentiments. So let's just remove the magnets, put that on top. So we're going to line all of this together. And this will help me figure out where my stamp needs to go. Now, because this is not a clear stamp, you're not going to be able to see through to see if it's straight. You can at least get it in the center. I usually just count the squares. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll go 6.5 on each side. And try to get center. I'm going to pick it up, and before I actually stamp it on the card, which I need to find my sentiment ink. If I don't, I'll just use my alcohol marker ink, so it doesn't really matter. Here it is. So I'm going to, it does look crooked, so I'm just going to go ahead and stamp it quickly, and then stamp on the grid piece. And once I lift up, I can see if it's straight or not, and it looks like it is up more on the right side. So I think what I need to do is just go down a tiny bit. And then I can clean this off. Stamp again. Now look at it, and that's straight enough for me. So now we can remove this piece, make sure our card is against those pieces of the Misty. That way if it gets moved, then I know where to line it up. And I'm just going to use my black licorice ink from Fawn to stamp this. And I have my Don't Stress, Just Press tool. So you can see it's a little bit wonky, but we're just going to add some more ink. And we're going to have to add a little bit more pressure. Like I said, it's definitely easier to do this first. And also what you could do is you could stamp it on a piece of cardstock and then just glue that on the inside. If at this point it doesn't work. I think we just need one more stamp. I'm just going to push it really good because it's not closing all the way since my card is kind of hanging out from the side. And look at that. We messed it up. I messed it up. Yep, nope. Okay. So, we're going to get another piece of Nina that's already cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Bring this down to where I had the other card lined up. And we're going to glue this on the inside. Which really I should have done this stuff for. It depends. Like this card is very thick. So as it's hanging out at the edge, it's a lot of layers right there that is trying to push through. Yeah, that's how it should have looked. It's not even the right sentiment. Okay. Let's clean this off. I knew something didn't look right. I was like, I don't remember it having that font on there. The loveliness of doing a live. I don't think this is the same. Is this the same size? It is. Alright. We're going to have to do that over. So we're going to take this sentiment off. Get our driving sentiment. This one's correct. Get our panel again. Clear alignment panel. Line this one up. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So again, we're going to do, it looks like 6 1/2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. A little bit more. Gonna pick it up. Stamp it. See if it's straight. And that is actually perfect. So, say if it was a clear stamp, you'd be able to line it up on the grid and see through it to see if it's straight. But with red rubber, a tool like that is, I think, very much necessary. And this piece is already dirty. So we'll flip it over. Magnet down. Ink this up. One, two, and it's better to ink it up, push it lightly, and then ink it up again to do a second impression, then push too hard and risk the letters smudging. Okay, so this is good. Now this should just fit on the inside of the card, but what I want to do is kind of look like it was on purpose, so I'm going to cut a 1/2 inch off of each side. Or 1/4 inch on each side. cutting this, I'm noticing that this piece of paper is not cut straight. So no matter how I cut this, this is not going to be straight. So this would essentially go in here, you glue it, and it's fine. Close your card, everything's good. But I'm going to have to redo this because this paper wasn't straight to begin with. It was one of my like scrap pieces, not my sheet that was cut right. Now the only thing missing other than that is the happy birthday on the front. And for that, I am using some pre-printed sentiment strips from Tailored Expressions. So they come on a sheet like this. This is the birthday one. And they are pre-printed in toner, so you could foil this if you want. And then they have dies to cut all these sentiments out at once. So there's a straight edge simple strips, and then there is the simple strips, which has the flag. And I think last time I used the flag, but I'm going to use the straight edge this time. So to use this, all we do is we take the die and we're going to line this up with the squares. If there wasn't a pre-printed sheet available, there are stamps available that you just stamp on your own paper and then use the coordinating die the same exact way. And I just need to find my tape. So make sure this is lined up good. Not only do I look at the squares, but I look at the sentiments on the inside, because sometimes the squares might not be perfect. Alright, hear that down. Send this through the die cutting machine. You're gonna hear lots of cracks. That's each sentiment getting die cut. It's a little tight. I don't think this is lined up right. Okay. And then, ideally, you would take it off and everything would pop out, but it's not. So I'm just gonna, you can see how they're die cut here. I'm just gonna pop out the one that I want, which is It's Your Birthday. So then I'm just going to put it up here, and I'm going to use some foam tape again, but I have these strips of foam tape that I also get from Amazon in bulk. And I can just peel off 2 of them together, and they will fit on the sentiment strip. Cut off my excess. And peel that off. And then just line this up on the card. I think that's straight, right? Alright, so there is the finished card, minus the inside. So I hope you guys were able to stick with me throughout this whole instruction. Sorry for all the tech complications and mistakes, but that's what happens when you go live. Things don't always go as planned. I also have not done the streak marks on the mountains. So let's just do that real quick. I'm gonna just look at my picture. And I did them on the right side, but because I want to cover this mark, I'm gonna do them on the left side. Well, not like cover it, but like at least make it less noticeable. There's really no rhyme or reason why I did them on this side. This actually might be an 8, yeah, because it's not as thick as my 10. So I'll just go back over that. And the big one here. I'll just go back over, make it darker. This one kind of has one here and one here. And then I did the road as well. Just lift this up. I turn it upside down so it doesn't touch the road where I'm going to draw. Alright, that's it. There we go. So, like I was saying, thanks for sticking along with me. And if you haven't had a chance, be sure to check out the corresponding blog post. There's some up-close pictures of this card, as well as a clickable list of supplies that I used. And if you'd like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you'd like to see more. I plan to do another live in 2 weeks. My plan is to do every other week. So I will have a new card for you in 2 weeks, and subscribe to my email and you'll be the first to know when that live is. So I'm gonna get face forward for you guys. All right. So thanks so much for sticking around, and I'll catch you guys next time. Bye.